Let's say you're getting paid $100,000. That's your salary or your annual income, 100 grand. And the IRS puts you in a 30% tax bracket, which means you're supposed to pay 30% to the IRS. the You went to school. Some of us borrowed money to go to school. We still owe student loans on this money, by the way. We still owe maybe 20, 40, 50, $100,000. And then you graduate and you apply for months to get a job, finally get a job that you're paid 100,000. And you know, a job paying you 100,000 means you're really putting in the work for sure. If not physical, then mental bandwidth to make $100,000. And then the IRS takes 30%. That means you're only going home with 30K, with 70K, sorry. That's your take home. Your take home is $70,000. But so the point I was making here is, let's say your monthly or your bi-weekly income is $3,000. You realize the IRS already takes their cut. This 30% goes straight to the IRS pocket before it even hits your bank account. All right. So the point I'm trying to make is, or I was trying to make is, when you're paid on a W-2, you get to pay the IRS first. They're the first people to get paid. If you get a pay raise, they equally get a pay raise. All right. And they would adore you. They would really admire when you get a pay raise or when you do overtime. Because at overtime, you don't pay 30%. 30% is on your regular income. Okay? Your regular income, your standard income. Anything above what you're supposed to be earning, overtime especially, you don't pay 30%. If you have noticed, any of you working who have worked overtime or is working overtime, you notice you're taxed more when you do overtime on that money coming from overtime. So instead of 30%, let's say you're now paying 60%. Oh, about 60%. If you've ever noticed, you notice you're taxed more on the overtime money. So let's say 60%. Or let's be very conservative and say 50-50. Now, instead of 70-30, the IRS says, okay, we're going to charge you 50% on any money you make above what we expect you to make. Okay? And you get to pay that direct. And then your income is capped at whatever your employer decides you're worth. So if your employer decides, Genevieve, your job can only pay 50K a year, that's it. That's all you take. That's all. If you want to make more, work more. If you work more, you get taxed more. That's the dilemma. Or you go get a second job, and then you're now doing 16-hour days. You're working 8 hours here during the day, and then maybe 8 hours during the night. So you're like shuffling from one job to the next, right? Um, so there, W-2, your income is capped. And then you overpay on taxes. The reason I say overpay on taxes is because there is way more if you were earning a W-2 or you were an entrepreneur or whatever, you could maximize the tax advantages. Okay. And then you cannot write off personal expenses. Imagine the many, many things you could write off. Guess what? Your phone, your car, even your transportation, your your office, your home. For some of you that work from home, you should be writing off your electricity, your phone bill, your cable, all right? The chair you sit on, the table that hosts your computer, if you're not using a company computer, of course, your internet, I already mentioned internet, your light, the electricity you're using, your water, because you're working from home, so you gotta use the restroom, those are all tax write-off or deductibles. So if you work from home, guess how much money you're paying to the IRS that you should be keeping for yourself. Okay? And that's just how the system works, by the way. So you're overpaying on taxes and you cannot write off personal expenses because you're on a salary or because they pay you on an hourly rate. So when you work, they don't care how you do the work, they just want you to work. All right? You could work longer hours. The worst is when you're on a salary, no one cares if you work overtime, right? Because a salary is a salary. A salary is you make $100,000 a year. That's it. If the job takes 15 hours a day, or some days you work long hours, no one compensates you for that. No one. If you wake up earlier and close late, it's on you. No one cares. So that's on a salary. On an hourly, of course, you clock in per hour. So they count every hour you work. Any hour above 8 hours is overtime. So that's easy. So that's the breakdown of a W-2. This is just a little. I'm not covering everything. All right. Now let's look on the side of a 1099. Okay. And this is unique to anyone making a commission or driving for Uber that is getting paid a 1099 or something like that. So the 1099, let me list some of them. Some of the benefits of a 1099. Some of them. I'm not going to cover everything, but let me list a couple of them. First things first, if we're doing a peer-to-peer comparison, you pay yourself first. This is how it works. If your commission, if you were paid $100,000 a year, the IRS automatically takes 30,000, and then you can debate with them when you file your taxes whether or not the 30,000 was enough. If it's not enough, you get to pay more. That's why they would ask you to pay more. So if at the end of the year they decide, Bruno, we were actually supposed to take $38,000 from you, but we only took 30,000. So guess what? I owe them $8,000. But if they decide, oh, we took 30,000, but we were supposed to take 22,000, then they owe me $8,000. That's how it works. They don't just manufacture money and give you. All right. So here on a 1099, if I make $100,000 in my business as a 1099, first of all, the entire 100,000 is in with me. I get paid the commission directly. WFG or whatever provider it or platform or business it is, Uber, Lyft, they pay me. The 100,000 comes to my bank account. Every single dollar of it. Okay, so I pay myself first. That's the difference. I have no income limits. If I want to make more, I just go talk to more people. If I want to make more, I just go recruit more people. If I want to make more, I just duplicate myself to more people. Or I go get more clients. I travel more. I speak to more people. I can decide, okay, instead of talking to 2 people a day, let me try and talk to 5 people a day. All right. Instead of closing 2 policies, let me close 10 policies a month. And so I can decide to make 10,000 a month, 20,000 a month, 50,000 a month, 100,000 a month based on my effort. Okay. My effort. So no income limits. You have seen the numbers. Today, pay cycle was going to hit today. Pay cycle was going to hit today. And guess what? Pay cycle was going to hit today. And Felicia made $12,500 if I'm not mistaken. The numbers were not. Daniel Fumbo is yet to release the numbers, but $12,500 in one single day. $12,500 in one day. The numbers are probably going to release tomorrow. That is the pure example of what I'm talking about. You can make as much as you want. Imagine 12 grand, 12,000 in one day. This is what most people make in a couple of months. If we're being real, right? But she's making that in one single day. Exactly. You have no income limits. You save on taxes. When I say save on taxes, because you have a lot of deductibles. You see all of this you could not write off here. Your car, your rent, your electricity, blah, 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 blah. If you're working at a 1099, you can then write off all those things. They become your tax. That's why I said you can write off personal expenses. They could become your business expenses. Because guess what? You use your phone to call clients. You use your internet to connect on Zoom. Like right now, you're using your internet. You're using a phone or you're using a laptop. That is a tax write-off. You're using a corner of your room or of your house or your living room. That space is an office. That's a tax write-off. 100%. If you're renting a home, then your office or your business is renting part of your apartment or your home. And then your car, you're driving to go meet a client or go talk to a friend, go talk to a prospect. That's the gas and the mileage is a tax write-off. If you travel out of state, right? I'm going to be traveling to Texas next week. That's a tax write-off. I was in Maryland not too long ago. That's a tax write-off. Every single dollar from my hotel to the car rental to the any money I spent on food, that's a tax write-off because I attended a business event. It's a tax write-off. On a 1099, you cannot do all of that. All right, that's a tax write-off. That's the difference. And then, of course, the losses you incur on your 1099, these losses I've mentioned. If you had both, if you had a 1099 and a W-2, guess what now? You can use these losses here to offset your W-2 tax, your W-2. Because now if you have a 1099 and you equally have a job and you make all this money from your 1099, Guess what? Because you could not write off all of this if you only had a W-2. But because you have a 1099, you can then write off all of this, even when you have a W-2, if you combine both of them, right? So you can use your 1099 to offset the W-2 taxes. And then lastly, but not least, and this is just a few that I'm listing, is you can hire your kids to work for you. Abiola, your daughter is what, 8, 9? How old is she? How old is she? I think she's 9, I think, or 10, maybe. So you can write off, and I think this is factual. You can write off up to $14,600 a year by just having her assist you in your business. She can create your flyers. These kids are very productive these days. They know everything on the phone or on the laptop. You can teach her how Canva works. She can create your flyers for you. She can arrange your office. She can send emails if she knows how to, or you can teach her how to do that. She can do whatever you need her to do, that you can, like you can write off as working in your business. You can legally write off $14,600 a year. That's a 100% tax write-off. If you multiply 14,600 from the age of 8 till the age of 18, that's 10 years. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money you could be legally writing off your balance sheet and dumping this money into their account. It could go into their college fund or into whatever fund. But legally, $14,600 is how much you're leaving on the table. So there's a lot to benefit from a 1099. There's a lot to benefit from a 1099. All right. So it's getting to the end of the year, and you need a 1099 to file to get all these benefits I just talked about. You need a 1099 to get all these benefits. And like I mentioned, for those just coming in, with WFG, you need at least $2,000 cash flow before the end of the year to get a 1099. $2,000 cash flow. If you've not made it, that's fine. Remember this one? Remember this one? No income limit. We have 2 months. 1 month, you can literally, like Felicia, in one day, 12,000. In the next 2 months, we can make that happen. 100%. Can make 10 grand, 20 grand, or whatever. So we have 2 months to make that happen. Okay.